You wake up choking, not from fear, not yet, from the smell. It's thick, wet, alive. Something underneath the bed shifts with a soft sloshing sound. You freeze, you listen. There it is again, a quiet drip. Then a faint bubbling like something breathing in the dark. You don't know it yet, but you're sleeping above a latrine. Not a toilet, not a chamber pot. A pit. And it's been collecting everything for months. Maybe years. Now here's the part no one tells you. Why is it inside the room? Why would anyone live like this? And more importantly, why does no one seem bothered? You sit up slowly. The straw mattress scratches your skin. Your fingers come away damp. You don't want to think about what's soaked into it overnight. A body shifts beside you, warm, breathing. Too close. There's no space in this room, no separation. Just heat, sweat, and the smell of rot creeping up through the wooden boards beneath you. And then you hear it. Laughter, soft, intimate. Someone else in the room. Because privacy? That's a luxury that doesn't exist here. You're not alone. You were never alone. And that's where it starts to twist. Because hygiene in the medieval world isn't just about dirt. It's about proximity. Bodies pressed together, fluids mixing. Heat trapped in enclosed spaces. And something far worse. Desire. Growing inside it, but let's slow down. Because you're about to realize something unsettling. People here don't avoid filth. They live in it. Bathing? Rare? Water? Suspicious. In fact, many believed water opened the pores, letting disease slip inside like a thief in the night. So instead of washing, they layered clothes on top of sweat, perfume on top of decay, flowers stuffed into sleeves to mask the smell of bodies slowly breaking down. And underneath all of it, skin that hasn't been properly cleaned in weeks, months, sometimes longer. Now imagine this. You reach for the person beside you, not out of romance, out of instinct, warmth, survival. But what you touch isn't soft. It's rough, oily, almost sticky. Their skin carries the history of everything they've touched. Smoke, dirt, other bodies. And something else, disease. But you don't know that yet. No one does. Instead, you tell yourself a story that this is normal, that this is closeness, that this is intimacy. And that's where things begin to blur. Because when hygiene disappears, the line between comfort and contamination vanishes with it. Now here's the question no one asks. What happens when attraction grows inside this environment? When the same hands that touch waste touch each other? When beds are shared, not just by couples, but by families, servants, strangers? You don't get isolation. You get exposure. Constant. Unavoidable. And slowly, it changes what people accept. What they crave. What they ignore. You lie back down. The smell doesn't fade. It settles. It becomes part of the air, part of you. And then, the person beside you pulls closer. No hesitation. No disgust. Just instinct. Because in this world, filth isn't the enemy. Loneliness is. And that's the first lie, the dangerous one. Because something is already spreading beneath the surface. Something invisible. Something patient. And the closer people get, the faster it moves. But no one stops. No one pulls away. Because no one understands what's really happening. Not yet. Not until the body begins to change. Not until desire starts to look like something else entirely. And by then, it's too late. Because what feels like intimacy is already infection. And you're about to see how deep it goes. When disease becomes desire, it starts small. An itch. Nothing alarming. Nothing dramatic. Just a quiet irritation you try to ignore. You scratch. Of course you do. Everyone does. Because here's the truth no one says out loud. Everyone is itching. Under their clothes. Between their fingers. Along their necks. Invisible armies crawl across skin that hasn't been properly cleaned in weeks. Lice. Fleas, mites. Tiny, relentless creatures feeding on warmth, blood, and neglect. And here's the part that twists your stomach. They don't just survive in this environment. They thrive. Now ask yourself this. What happens when touch spreads them? When closeness becomes a transfer? When every embrace is an exchange? You don't stop touching. You can't. Because in a world this cold, this harsh, human contact isn't optional. It's survival. So you keep reaching. Even when your skin burns. Even when something feels wrong. And slowly, your body adapts. The itch becomes normal. The discomfort fades into the background. And that's when something darker slips in. Because once the body stops resisting, the mind starts reinterpreting. Sensation becomes something else. Pleasure starts to blur with irritation. Pain begins to echo like something familiar. And here's the question you're not ready for. What if disease didn't just spread through intimacy? What if it reshaped it? Think about it. In a world without proper hygiene, where infections go untreated, where the body is constantly under attack, every sensation is heightened, distorted. Unpredictable. And that includes desire. Now you notice something. People don't just tolerate closeness. They seek it, even when it hurts, even when it leaves marks, even when it spreads something they don't understand. Because it's one of the few moments where they feel anything at all. Alive. Connected. Wanted. And that feeling? It overrides everything. Even fear. Even logic. Even the quiet signs that something is very, very wrong. A rash appears. No one panics. Fever creeps in. You ignore it, because illness here is constant. Expected. But then, it starts to change. Symptoms begin to mimic something else. Warmth. Sensitivity. An almost intoxicating awareness of the body. And people mistake it. They confuse it. They interpret infection as intensity. And that's where things spiral, because now, the very thing harming you feels like something you need. Let me explain. Without understanding bacteria, viruses, transmission, there's no concept of stop. Only experience, only sensation, only the immediate. So when the body reacts, when it burns, when it aches, when it pulses with something unfamiliar, it gets folded into the idea of connection, of closeness, of desire, and suddenly, disease isn't just spreading. It's being invited. Reinforced. Repeated. Picture this: a crowded room, bodies packed together, heat rising, no ventilation. No cleanliness. Just shared air, shared surfaces, shared everything. And within that space, people reaching for each other, not despite the conditions, but because of them. Because in a life filled with discomfort, even distorted pleasure feels like relief. And that's the trap, the perfect one. Because the more people seek it, the more it spreads. Faster, deeper, wider, until it's no longer just part of life. It becomes the environment itself, and still, no one sees it clearly. They don't call it infection. They don't call it danger. They call it normal. And that's what makes it unstoppable. Because how do you fight something you don't even recognize? The itch gets worse. The body changes. But no one steps back. No one questions it. Because the alternative, isolation, cold, silence, is worse. So they choose closeness. Again, and again, and again. And with every touch, the invisible spreads, quietly, patiently, until one day, it stops being subtle and becomes something you can't ignore. Something that doesn't feel like desire anymore. Something that looks like death. And when that moment hits, when the illusion finally cracks, you realize something horrifying. This was never just about filth. It was about control. And you were never in it. The rot beneath the skin. By the time you notice, it's already too late. The smell changes first. Not the room. Not the latrine beneath the floor. There's something different now. Sour, metallic, wrong. You try to wash it off. But washing isn't simple here. Water is scarce. And even when you find it, it's not clean. Sometimes it's been sitting for days. Sometimes longer. Used, reused, shared. A bath isn't a reset. It's a transfer. And here's the part that sinks in slowly, that water you step into. Someone else stepped into it first. And they didn't leave it clean. They left behind everything. Skin. Sweat. Disease. So you sit in it. Let it soak into you, hoping it helps, not realizing it's only making things worse. Now the symptoms don't hide anymore. Your body reacts. Openly. Aggressively. Pain where there shouldn't be pain. Heat that doesn't feel like warmth anymore. And suddenly, that thing you once associated with closeness feels like something else entirely. Something invasive. Something consuming. But here's the twist. You don't stop. Because by now, you've been conditioned. To associate touch with relief. With escape. So even when your body warns you, you ignore it. Because the alternative is facing what's really happening. And that's something no one is ready for. Not you. Not them. Not anyone in this world. Now look around. Really look. People are changing. Slowly. Subtly. Until it's impossible to deny. Skin marked. Eyes tired. Bodies weakened. And still, they reach for each other. Because that habit, that need, doesn't disappear. Even when it becomes dangerous. Especially then. And that's what makes it tragic. Because this isn't ignorance. It's adaptation. A world so steeped in filth that people reshape themselves to survive inside it, even if it destroys them. Now here's the question that reframes everything. Was this ever about hygiene? Or was it about how far humans will go to feel something, anything, in a life this brutal? Because when comfort disappears, when safety vanishes, when every day is survival, you don't chase perfection. You chase moments, even if those moments come with a cost. And in this world, that cost is your body. Your health. Your future. Now the climax hits. Not all at once, but in waves. A sickness that doesn't stay quiet anymore, that moves faster than anyone expected, that spreads through the very thing people depend on most, each other. Rooms empty. Not because people leave, because they can't stay. And for the first time, distance begins to make sense, but it comes too late. Because the system, the lifestyle, the habits, they're already built on closeness, on shared space, on constant contact. You can't undo that overnight. So it continues. Slower now, more cautious, but still moving. Because the damage is already done, and what's left behind is something heavier than disease. It's memory, a quiet understanding that something was wrong, but no one saw it clearly enough to stop it. And that's the aftermath. Not a dramatic ending. Not a clean resolution. Just a slow realization that the thing people trusted, the thing they needed, was also the thing that broke them. And now you're standing in it. The same room, the same air, but it feels different. Because you see it now. All of it. The latrine beneath the floor, the water that never cleans, the touch that never stays safe. And you can't unsee it. You can't go back to not knowing. That's the real horror. Not the filth. Not the disease, but the awareness. Because once you understand, you start to wonder how much of this is really gone. How much of it just changed shape. Got cleaner. Quieter. Hidden behind modern comfort. Because history doesn't disappear. It adapts. It waits. And sometimes it lingers in ways you don't expect. In habits. In systems. In the quiet spaces where no one looks too closely. So if something about this felt familiar, if any part of it made you pause, that's not an accident. That's the echo, and you've already heard it. This is Blood and Empire, where the past doesn't stay buried. It breathes. It watches. And now that you've stepped into it, you don't just leave, you carry it with you. So go ahead. Close the door. Turn on the light. Tell yourself it's different. Now cleaner. Safer. But somewhere, just beneath the surface, it's still there. Waiting. And if you're curious enough to come back, it will show you more. Just be careful what you start to understand.